Well, let's start with the tire conversation first because I was kind of curious to talk to you because obviously I don't know how much is out there on the Kumho tires themselves right now. Obviously, they came in last year new to the FD. Obviously, had some growing pains. I mean, at one point you ran some all seasons, just to make sure that they would last the entire run and stuff. So, kind of like, what's the conversation when a new tire company is coming into FD? They want to work with you. Like, what's the relationship got to be like for it to be like? Obviously, they've made some looks like successful changes for this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like I don't think it's a secret, but
Right.
it's always hard to get on a tire company, right?
Yeah.
It's if you are sponsored by a tire company, you're damn near golden. That's the first and foremost thing that you want to get.
Yeah.
With GT last year, or 2 years ago,
Yeah.
picking up damn near 90% of the field when Kumho tires came in and was able to pick me up. That was something that I knew would be really special. They had signed a 3-year contract. They talked to me about, they were very upfront. They're like, hey, we haven't been drifting before at this capacity, and we might not have the best tire at the moment, but we will be developing a tire with your help. And so I was stoked for that. We signed a contract for multiple things and
Yeah.
for the year. And, even this year, we've already signed on in September. So love
Wow.
working with these guys so far and how they're doing it. But I knew that it wasn't the best tire. And I had spoken with other tire brands in the series, but
Yeah.
I knew with what Kumho wanted to come in and do, I knew that it's the brand that I wanted to work with and be a part of, because I knew that they were going to you know go full force into it. They're a badass in other racing entities,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew that they weren't just going to show up and just have this mediocre tire and just try to run with it. So like it wasn't hard for me to say yes. I want to be a part of Kumho.
Right.
I think it was a kind of an easy decision, um, comparatively to what was out there, and knowing that they're going to do 3 years. Right.
Right.
I had actually made a mistake, and I don't mind being publicly about most things. I made a mistake betting on Hankook tires a long time ago,
Oh.
thinking, oh, these guys have been in the sport forever. They'll stay around forever. And so I stuck with Hankook instead of jumping ship to Nexon. I'm usually
Mm.
pretty brand loyal. And right after that 1 year, Nexon asked me, "You want to go be on Nexon?" And I was like, "Nah, dude, I'll stick with Hankook. They'll probably be here for the long run. It's all good."
Yeah.
So you're right after
Only
that,
to find out.
gone. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Damn." And luckily, Paul Joe, who was working at Nexon at the time, he was able to bring me overboard there. But I was like, that really sucked.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry. That wasn't the year that I jumped to Nexon. That was the year I jumped to Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the year I was able to make something happen. But yeah, it's interesting, So you got to make your decisions on tires
Well,
based on a few things.
hmm
Is it a
obviously
good
the big one
tire?
being
Can
financial,
work for a long time? Yeah.
But
When you're like new into the sport, you'll take any damn thing you can get. From my position, luckily I was able to have a few choices in what I wanted to do.
mm, well, it's
Uh,
cool because, like you said, you get to work with a company that's going to be working directly with you. Obviously, if you got like a GT Radial, they got 20 different guys they can talk to. I mean, they got the whole prospect field to talk to. Nitto's been here forever. So it's curious because now you become almost like technically probably one of the most important drivers on that tire for them.
mhm.
And I feel like you get a lot of, if you wanted special treatment, if you need something, they're there for you. And what I want to know is like, okay, so obviously the first year there were a lot of improvements that you would want on the tire. What's the conversation like with them? Do you get to actually talk with the guys that make the tire compounds and all that kind of stuff, or is it just like relayed through kind of what you tell the representatives?
Uh, it was as good as you could actually imagine it. So, for round one in Long Beach of last year,
Yeah.
we were just shaking hands with the marketing team. But when it came to round two in Atlanta, that's where they're kind of based out of.
Mm-hmm.
We had the engineers with us. We had the
Wow.
CEO saying hello. And so the conversation started. And they're like, okay, do you love it? Do you hate it? What's going on? And, we don't know how it was. And we had a poor showing last year at Long Beach. Also had a poor showing this year at Long Beach. But in Atlanta, we, won the seeding round, made it to the top 8, and was able to have a conversation with the engineer. And as the year went on, and I found the flaws really quickly in the tire, I was able to ask them, "Hey, man, can we get the engineer out here? Like, let's make sure we can get this fixed." And they're not a micro brand, right? This is a global,
Yep.
massive brand. So they can't just make a change for me, and they can't just make a change that's just going to shoot out. That's going to be DOT to everyone. So any changes are going to take several months,
Hmm.
But yeah, they literally flew out the engineer to St. Louis. I don't know if you guys remember that the track in the back that we used for the first time in
Hmm.
St. Louis
Yep.
for Formula D. So Kevin Wells and the engineer, they let me test on that track. We tested like 4 different compounds of what they already have, and that's where we ended up saying, okay, we know the next 4 tracks are really big. Let's go ahead and use the PS91 at the time. Let's use that for the future tracks like Irwindale, Washington, and because knowing that we would need all the treadwear we could get.
Yeah.
But yeah, the engineer had flown out. I gave him a ride along, did all kinds of tire testing. We cut some tires in half. We did all the cool things that you would think you'd want to do. He gave us like all these, charts of how they graphically put the tire, weight it down, and the traction that it would make
Yeah.
for different weights, different air pressures, and we went over all these thoughts and possibilities. But I at the same time, as this dude's teaching me about tires, which I know a good amount, but not like an engineer like they do.
Yeah.
They also don't know about drifting, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach the engineer about drifting.
Yep.
How what we need as a good tire and why we need it. And I'm not speaking the exact scientific lingo that he needs. So we're trying to find somewhere in the middle of like, I need side bite here. I need to do this air pressure. Maybe I don't need it to be at that air pressure. Maybe this is just the air pressure we're all used to.
Yeah.
It's like, do we really need to be down to like 8 psi? Maybe we can figure this out and actually be up at 10 psi, 12 psi, so we're not in that D beating area. So as the engineer was super cool, we were able to talk a lot about just tire lingo and figure it out, and explaining to him why we do what we do, why this goofy stuff is what it is. And it was cool because, at first he's like, dude, let's just build this badass drift specific tire that you can go out and just kick everyone's ass on. And I was so down for that. But there are Formula D rules that we have to stick to. Right? It's got to be a DOT tire.
Yep.
It's got to be a tire that everyone can buy, and so forth. So we were able to meet in the middle, and now we have the new V730 that's really a freaking rocket ship that I've got to now get used to, because I was so used to that PS91 towards the end of the year.
Yeah, you're like, oh, take some grip out. Take grip out.
Not really much. At Long Beach, I think we were like 18 psi, and I probably should have been higher.
Wow.
I was going like 0 toe in the car. The car was just too gripped up for what I was used to. And that's where I was kind of saying, like, I wish I would have had more time in the car on that tire. Because all the like demo driving that I did and other fun stuff kind of maybe diluted it. Even like I'm sitting here next to my sim, getting some sim practice may have kind of taken that away, and I wasn't able to adjust quick enough to the new badass tire.
Wow.
Right.
But, drivers like Forsberg were like, dude, this tire's awesome. Glad you did what you did with it to get it to where it's at.
That's cool.